Red Dot, a mystery thriller directed by Alain Darborg, and I apologize if I butchered his name, and I also apologize in advance for butchering any other names throughout this video because this is a Swedish film. So Red Dot follows a couple on a hiking trip to rekindle their marriage and finds themselves fleeing for their lives in the wilderness from an unknown shooter. So before I actually get into the topic for this video, I just want to kind of give like a really quick brief review and say that I did find the film to be quite entertaining. It kept my interest throughout basically the whole runtime. Also, I saw that it was top 10 in the world, trending on Netflix right now at the moment, which is another good reason why I wanted to cover it and use it for this new series that I'm starting. But I'm giving this film a 7 out of 10. I thought it was fair, but I also thought that there were a lot of dumb mistakes made by the characters, and that's why I wanted to give you guys this video. Also, by the way, this is all just for fun, but without dragging this shit out any farther, let's go ahead and get into my top 5 dumbest mistakes made by the characters in Red Dot. Also, if it's not pretty clear already, this video will contain spoilers, so there you go, there's your warning. Now let's get into it. So I'm going to try to keep all these dumb mistakes listed in chronological order, in which the order they actually happen throughout the movie. So I'm going to start this with number 1, which is this fucking guy right here who goes by Anar in the film, but that's not important, and I'm pretty sure I fucked up his name, sorry. But what is important is that this first sort of bad impression by this guy is actually what ends up costing him his life later on in the film. But if this guy wouldn't have came off as a creep, weirdo, and insulting to David and Nadia early on, he possibly could have gotten his life spared, and David and Nadia could have also had an ally in the end to fight, or just, you know, find help and leave the situation. So yeah, in my opinion, that was definitely one of the first dumb major mistakes made by one of the characters in this film. So let's move on to number 2. So number 2, in my opinion, is probably going to be what sort of happens just right after that, which is the hit and run by David and Nadia on Anar's vehicle. So when they go to pull off, this was just a really dumb mistake by them hitting his vehicle, thinking that no one would possibly even notice it because it happened directly in front of the store, so someone had to see it. Now, in my personal opinion, this situation can really be looked at 2 ways. They initially came off as creeps towards David and Nadia, so you can say that him sort of hitting his vehicle and leaving it there and not addressing the issue and just driving away was possibly justified because, you know, they were pretty weird people. But you can also look at it in a way that I'm choosing to look at it because they're making a mistake, which is they could have jumped out, addressed the issue, because they're sort of looked at as decoys early in the film. We're supposed to suspect them as being the ones that are hunting them. And, you know, if he would have addressed the issue, they possibly could have found out that these were decent guys and made allies early on in the movie. So I'm sure that one's probably going to be a little controversial, but, you know, come with your thoughts and comments down below and let me know if you agree or disagree and tell me why. But I'm going to move on to number 3 now for the dumbest mistakes made here. I think that's going to be by David and Nadia, where they're actually leaving the hotel and they see the racial slur on the back of their vehicle, and they choose to retaliate when they see Anar's vehicle and basically key it. Now, David and Nadia choosing to key the hunter's vehicle when they were basically the ones in the wrong in the first place was actually a really dumb mistake, and I'm going to tell you why. But before I tell you my reasoning, you can also look at it like, okay, yes, they left a racial slur on the back of David and Nadia's vehicle, and David and Nadia just wanted to also retaliate. But I'm going to tell you why retaliating in that situation basically was a really dumb mistake, and it made things a whole lot worse for them. So they're technically tourists in an unfamiliar place, and it probably wouldn't be that difficult to track you guys down given the fact that the locals are more likely to know the area well, especially local hunters. So why make things possibly worse for yourself by making enemies, and you plan to camp out where no one can hear you cry for help, and you also didn't bring any weapons to protect yourself just in case? So yeah, that was definitely one of the dumber mistakes in the film. So number 4 on my top 5 dumbest mistakes in Red Dot is actually going to be when David and Nadia don't think to call for help until after they no longer have access to their cell phone. So after David and Nadia decide that it's time to leave after seeing the red beam from the sniper rifle for the first time while camping, they head back to the tent to begin packing their things before seeing the red beam again and the dog runs off. Now, I may have missed something, but I don't remember them ever acknowledging not having cell phones on them. So I'm not understanding why they didn't call for help. Or even better, why didn't the thought cross their mind until they ran away from their camp? But a few things happened before they ran away. So the red dot was visible for a second time, then it was assumed that their dog was shot and killed when he was called off, which is confirmed later on as true, and then their camp light is shot out before they take off running. But no one is thinking about calling anyone. Now David sort of addressed this later on by trying to point out that even if they had a cell phone, it would be redundant because they wouldn't actually be able to pinpoint anyone to their location. But this movie seems to take place in modern day, and modern day cell phones have a GPS. So I'm labeling this as a mistake anyway. So yeah, I'm still labeling that one as a mistake, but one could argue that they may have not had enough time to actually look for a cell phone being shot at or actually making a call, but that's just my take on how their situation played out. And the fifth and final worst mistake made by the characters in Red Dot was Nadia standing behind the guy who was the bartender earlier in the film when he was on the phone when she actually made it into their house, her and David, for help. She actually listened to the guy make the call, became clear that he was in on it and that her life was now in danger, and instead of taking something and knocking his ass out while his back was turned, she waited for him to turn around and decided that now was actually a good time to go back and get her husband. And for some reason she just assumes that this guy is just gonna let her and her husband just walk out right past him. But of course he grabs a knife, and then now they were just shit out of luck. So there it is, my top 5 dumbest mistakes for Red Dot. And of course I have a couple honorable mentions that didn't make the list, like them shooting one of the guys with the flare gun and just worsening their situation, of course. Or you could even say them killing Anar, the guy who actually had the sniper, one of the sniper rifles. And also the events that we find out in the end that pretty much triggers everything, that the reason why this is all happening and the truth behind the film, which is the hit and run on the kid, which David is just, the guy is really getting good at all of these hit and runs. Just a big shit fest, man. You could even point out the fact that when Nadia comes back with the sniper rifle, you know, how she could have made better decisions on that whole situation before what happens to her. So yeah, but these are my top 5 dumbest mistakes in Red Dot. So you guys let me know what you think about that. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Thank you for watching.